nice spots and cheap pubs. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Silicon Steve Daly. And on the other side, we got... Oh my God, we are off of the heels of AEW Full Gear. Purple Nurple once again around the gorgeous waist of Lottie Dottie as he wins all. I think there was 2 matches, I believe, that you got other than me. You got them both. And ladies and gentlemen, Lottie Dottie, you saw the entire pay-per-view. We're going to get right into it. AEW All Out trying to get some momentum in AEW's favor. Your opinion of the pay-per-view, you seem to have enjoyed it.
Yeah, actually, overall, I thought it was an entertaining pay-per-view. Basically, it had my attention throughout for most of it. There's definitely one major, crappy spot that I was just like, oh my God, this has got to be over soon. However, most of it otherwise really held my attention. And you and I were actually supposed to get together, but unfortunately, it did not happen. So I basically, in my sorrow, had to go join a mutual friend of ours and actually watched it with him and had a few bourbons, hung out, and beyond watching it, basically got his opinion. As you and I both can attest, he was a wrestling fan back in the Attitude Era, watched WCW and also watched ECW. He was a big fan of ECW as well.
Yes, he was.
So basically I was like, oh, this is sort of interesting. And watching the pay-per-view with the Portuguese Mouse, as he's known, also Ray Pearson. So watching it with Ray, I got some feedback as he is watching AEW Full Gear. So I'll be able to sort of pepper that in as well.
Nice.
And so basically the first match we had, they led off pretty strongly, by the way. And just a few miles from both of us here in Newark, New Jersey, you had a steel cage match with Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus, his former tag team champion partner and best friend, if you will. Somehow or another, this boy from the jungle and this dinosaur found some common bonds that they could not overlook and became friends. So we had a wonderful cage match here. One of the positive things I'll say on this is it didn't go too long. It was just right. It wasn't like they stretched this thing out. They did what they needed to do. They got the high spot in with Jungle Boy. He wins. Place goes crazy. Handled perfectly. I thought it was a good way to start off the night. Offhand, was this one of the matches you were able to watch or no?
Yeah, well, I did see the ending toward it. I also saw the media scrum with Jungle Boy, and he seemed extraordinarily emotional, even though you think there's a little bit of a shot at CM Punk in that media scrum.
I'm 100% sure there was a little shot in there because he's a little stooge for the Bucks.
Well, Vladi Dottie, if you didn't see it, Vladi Dottie, describe to the people what Jungle Boy, if anyone didn't see the media scrum, what Jungle Boy was doing during the media scrum. And
so the Jack Perry over here finishes his match probably 4 hours prior to the media scrum. And amongst those 4 hours, he couldn't find his way into any of the showers that are in the back there in the locker room of the Prudential Center and basically shower off the dried blood that's on his face. And not only that, comes out having some sort of bread, pastry, whatever it might be, sitting in front of him with the bloody face. And the last time I saw something like this just so happened to be with CM Punk and that infamous media scrum. So I have no doubt one of the young bucks thought it'd be hilarious if they could go and stooge on CM Punk and have their little buddy go out there. Don't go shower that for 4 hours, man. This is gonna be hilarious to 3 of us. So they went and did that with this kid because they always look out for the best of interest for everybody, especially their friends. And this is what they did. And you had Jack Perry trying to act cool out there while he's taking a little shot at CM Punk as if he could ever hold his jockstrap. So.
Nobody is shielded from the venom of Lottie Dottie when you take shots at CM Punk, and I applaud you for your valor, sir.
And I'll even add to it. There was a little bit. Thank you for the applause. I always appreciate applause, of course. But one of the things we got to look at is, I believe it was Colton Gunn on Twitter got into some stuff with Jungle Boy there, and that whole shot. And again, I know Phil Brooks wasn't at Mr. Gunn's smartphone there and tweeted this himself. But Colton Gunn had no problem bringing up the fact that the reason he's on these pay-per-views is that he hangs out with the owner until 6 a.m. I can only wonder what's going on there.
What do you mean by that, Vladi Dottie?
Oh, Tony Khan's pizza parties? Are you kidding me? You don't know these things?
Whoa.
So you have...
Are you talking about Pizzagate? Is there a professional wrestling Pizzagate?
No. It's not, no. Tony provides pizza for the wrestlers, and they hang out after events. And Jungle Boy is right there in his back pocket, because in the front pocket is his wallet, so you don't want to be too obtrusive. So basically... you have Colton Gunn calling him out saying, yeah, you hang out with the owner until 6 a.m. And by the way, you also change in the same locker room with the Young Bucks. So right there. Yeah, and it wasn't FTR that wrote that, and it wasn't Phil Brooks either. It was one of the Gun Club. So right there, you're just showing you, like, you and I talk a lot about the tribalism between WWE and AEW. You know what? There's tribalism within AEW. Okay, there's two different mindsets amongst those wrestlers.
Yeah,
and it's obvious. And listen, you can't blame CM Punk for any of this little Twitter exchange. And there definitely was realism there. So yeah,
I don't think it's that big of a deal, though.
Of course not. So basically, you have a situation here where you got this little stooge out there acting as if and one of the Bucks just laughing his ass off at this thing. Because, hey, they told their supposed friend, hey, go and do this. This is going to go and get a rise. We're going to put you on BTE, and like 15 of our marks will watch it or something.
Wow.
So, yeah, he was boring otherwise. But, yeah, he got the results he wanted. I'm talking about it now.
Well, I don't think we have to go any more towards bringing up the CM Punk stuff. We can move away. We should move on. Just like Kenny Omega said in a recent Sports Illustrated interview, we don't have to get into any negativity about CM Punk. So anyway, what match was next?
Should we continue with that part of the conversation, I ask?
Well,
we'll circle back.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't the next match?
Actually, you're right. I destroyed that segue.
I nailed my segue, and you fucked me, Vadi.
And you're
nailed
right.
The segue.
I should fall on 1,000 swords for that one. So, take two. No, you give me the finger.
No, what'd you say?
I said take two. Let's do this again.
I nailed I can't do the segue again. That was the most perfect segue. I'll try though.
You can just edit it.
So, as we get away from the CM Punk stuff, we want to use more positivity where no one's shaking any cages and rattling any cages. Like Tony, like we said, Kenny Omega just said in a Sports Illustrated interview, let's all move on. We're all, talking about CM Punk himself and the Bucks. We're all human beings. We all just struggling to show our craft. Let's just move on and don't shake anymore. Paraphrase, and don't shake any more cages.
Nice.
So, what was next during Full Gear?
So, unbelievably, we would have the triple threat or trios championship between Death Triangle and the glorious return that was not self-filleting in the slightest by the Elite. All dressed in white, returning to the band Kansas and the song
Carry On My Wayward Son.
Carry On My, is it Carry On or Carry On? So we all know the song. And let me say this, as a classic rock fan, and I love classic rock, it's one of the songs I hate. So just perfect. So it's just so going, and I actually read the lyrics and I'm like, these guys are so full of their own shit. It's incredible. So anywho, I will say that,
you do know that song has a big emotional attachment to the Young Bucks and their father, right? And they used to come out to that match. They used to come out to that when they were running shows in their backyard. So
I don't care.
Okay, well, that's part of the story. It's not just okay. We're filleting ourselves with this with the lyrics. This is a song made a lot more sense on different levels. So let's not go crazy. We got to call it down the middle, Bobby Dottie.
I appreciate the backstory, but it doesn't tug in any heartstrings whatsoever for me with them. I know what I'm dealing with them, and I've had them figured out for no less than 6 months already.
They're full of shit. They're gross.
They're full of shit and they're gross. Okay. So they come out, and I'll say this. One of the first things I immediately thought of you, right? And
are they gross because they're right-wing Christians?
You know what? Politics aside, even though I probably wouldn't agree with them, like half of their politics at the very least, they're just disgusting.
They're from California, though. They might be liberal.
They're not liberal. They're
definitely.
And you know what? Part of the problem too, in my opinion, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, and I'm not looking to debate it, but we didn't really have many issues until CM Punk walked out on the Texas show talking about abortion rights being human rights either.
It was all downhill from there.
Yeah, Bucks probably didn't like that. Neither did Mrs. Jericho. So
you don't know that for a fact. Come on.
So you got this match. And the first thing I thought of, actually, and I almost texted to you, but I realized that you were watching at a later time. Kenny Omega looked good.
Yes.
He looked healthy. He looked ready to go, unlike the way he did 2 months ago. 2 months ago, it looked really like there was something off for sure. Like, you know, and again, you and I both recognize, especially you with being such a big fan. And seeing him throughout his career, but even I saw him, and it was beyond the shoulder tape. It just seemed like it was rushed back, and I was like, man, he is not like there yet. He's not ready. You know, this match, I knew he was ready. As soon as he came out, I'm like, yep, this is it. We're gonna see Omega in his true form, I would say, right?
More explosive. That's the thing. He wasn't explosive. He has that really quick, amazing offense that just boom. That he can explode out of nowhere, and that was just completely missing. And to your point, he definitely had it here during this match. There were times where he absolutely took over and looked great. And it was great seeing Kenny do what he does.
Right. Yeah. So here we have this match, and truth be told, I was shocked that they jobbed in that match.
I know, because you don't think they're capable of anything but self-serving, self-filleting action.
Well, and I felt like a fool for about 30 minutes before they announced that they're going to now do a best of 7,
which they lost the second when they lost match 2.
And I have no doubt that maybe they'll be down 3-0, but we'll still win it. And no matter what, I'm getting 7 matches of them and their friends, as if they deserve. Like, you lost them the first match you had upon returning. Why does that automatically make you the number 1 contender to go and get a best of 7? I don't know. Besides being EVPs, I'll listen. Try to make me convinced, whatever. But it was as soon as they did that, I was like, these guys are jerk offs. Seriously, I now got to watch them wrestle 7 times. And then let's get to this point, right? So I'm with the Portuguese Mouse, who should be in the demographic that Tony Khan would want to expand his audience to. Guy who watched WCW, the Attitude Era, WWE, and also ECW.
He's almost 50, though.
I don't even care about the age, right? You got a guy who could be sold. He's watching the pay-per-view with me. And he watches this match, right? And what was really intriguing was he actually said this. He goes, these 2 teams are mirror images of each other. And he goes, it's almost a Marvel comic match. And then he said this. He goes, he's like, I'll say this. He's like, athletically, he goes, they're impressive. But what I feel like I'm watching is a synchronized dance.
Yeah.
And boom goes the Dynamite. Right there, a lot of wrestling fans from those eras that I told you about, when they start watching that, that's not pulling them in. And obviously, after 3 years, they haven't grown it just by doing it this way. So I'm just telling you, his thing of watching this, he felt like he was watching something from Marvel, and even to almost to a lesser extent, it was synchronized dance to him. He even said, he's like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. Like the whole split where Matt Jackson was splitting and then Nick went and did the thing over. He's like, how unnecessary was all that? And I'm like, yeah, you got a point. And I'm just saying that's his first reaction watching this brand, and that's what he's taken away from it. Sitting there, I realized he's not going to go and turn it on TBS or TNT.
Yeah. I mean, the Young Bucks, that's who they are. So it's not changing. So Tony Khan, I don't think it's changing until their contract, at least till their contracts are up. And maybe their contracts are going to be up next year and they're gone. But the Young Bucks have been doing that their entire careers, and they've made a lot of money doing it, and they built the company. So I think that's with the Young Bucks and the Elite, that's a taste issue. The whole show's not like that. So I if he doesn't turn it on because of that particular part, okay. But at the end of the day, it's not like everyone's doing that kind of stuff. I mean, the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers particularly, they do a lot of the synchronized stuff. And they've been doing those spots for over a decade with each other. And they, it is impressive, but yeah, it definitely looks choreographed, and it definitely looks like Marvel. I can't necessarily disagree. The thing is do you suspend your disbelief enough? Which I think most wrestling fans are. That's what I think we're at now with professional wrestling fans. People, the rest, your normal professional wrestling fans these days are suspending their disbelief for things like that. Whereas 25, 30, particularly 40 years ago, it had to look like a real fight. That's why Bret Hart was so great, because it always looked like a real fight. That's the reason. But at the end of the day, that's who the Bucks are. It is impressive. I think it's impressive. I suspend my disbelief. That being said, that's not where the magic of the Young Bucks tag team matches are. That's in the middle part, whatever, just to show off. Those are just those weird little spots. Their matches and the psychology in their matches build toward the end of their matches. And I think discounting their matches sometimes is I think it's short-sighted. However, you have to get through a lot of the flippy-dippy bullshit that makes no sense. There's one spot Nick Jackson does. I don't know if it's Nick Jackson. There's one spot somebody, they'll grab on him. And I think Nick Jackson does it. And he'll walk on the rope, hop on the other side of the rope, and then just to do a flip just to arm drag the guy. It's stupidity. I can't stand that spot. When you have four guys doing that kind of thing and it actually looks like they're trying to kick each other, and even though it's clearly choreographed, I don't mind that much, because at the end of the day, they looked like they were trying. So I don't hate that spot. I'm not going to let that ruin the match for me. I thought the match was great.
Yeah, I'm just giving you the feedback. And then, as I mentioned, he had not been aware of what happened with CM Punk, the Young Bucks, the Kenny Omega. I gave him sort of the abridged version because I didn't necessarily want to talk throughout the entire pay-per-view, as you need like a full dissertation to go and explain what happened here.
I'm going to get a hold of Ray Pearson and make sure he has all the facts.
I'm sure he will. But he immediately said this when I explained that Omega and these two Hardly boys, the Young Bucks are EVPs. He stopped. He looked at me. He goes, "Wait a second." He goes, "These three are executive vice presidents?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "How does that not breed corruption within that locker room?" Oh, pretty astute by Ray Pearson. He basically is calling him out, saying like, what they want is going to go, and that's basically versus Tony Khan's ideas. And I'm like, it's pretty astute by you there, understanding what's going on there behind the scenes. Should have never been named that. It's basically the point.
It would have never been a thing if it wasn't for them, though.
It would have never been a thing if it wasn't for Tony Khan's money.
And that too. But Tony Khan needed the vehicles. Tony Khan didn't know jack shit about professional wrestling. Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks and other people that he brought in helped Tony Khan get off the ground before he became a monster. He became addicted on some kind of adrenaline of some sort.
Oh.
I'm kidding. He looked like he was crashing hard during this media scrum, wasn't he? He's like, just tired now.
I can't wait to go hang out with Jungle Boy till 6 a.m.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I'm not. I at the end of the day, I think I still remember that when these four guys, because I was watching Being the Elite since 2016, and I saw these guys help build this company. I have that connection with them, and I saw what they were before they were household names, and I saw the things that they were saying. I saw that the things that they were trying to do. I saw their journey by watching Being the Elite every week. I really see their journey, so I'm going to empathize with them a lot more. And I think, look, the bottom line is, if it wasn't for the Young Bucks and Kenny and Cody, but the Young Bucks are the glue that held all those guys together. If it wasn't for the Young Bucks, All Elite Wrestling isn't a thing. If it wasn't for those guys, All Elite Wrestling wasn't a thing. So I'm not going to hate them because there's wrestlers that are using their stroke to make things happen. That happened in every single professional wrestling company ever that wasn't owned by Vince McMahon. The boys had control over some aspect of it. WCW throughout its history, whether it be Kevin Sullivan, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Kevin Nash. The list goes on and on and on of one of the boys having the pencil, having that stroke, having that influence. Hogan, legendary for all the stroke he had in careers he missed. Shawn Michaels literally stopped Bret Vader from becoming a world champion because his gear smelled. And that was in WWE. So those things have happened throughout the history. If you're saying that, okay, but you're tired of hearing that the Bucks are good guys and Kenny's a good guy and they're being sanctimonious, nice word we used earlier, I can't argue with a lot of what you're saying because there's too many things that add up that their influence is affecting creative in a negative way, particularly FTR. Not having Kenny Omega immediately in a singles program with somebody. The guy is one of the best in bell-to-bell wrestlers on the planet. He's having a high stakes match and a high profile singles match with Will Ospreay, which you know he's going to bring his A game to at Wrestle Kingdom. And here he is fucking around with the triples tag titles. And I guess they're trying to make it a big deal and a big thing, and you do, which is fine. But I think that
it's an odd choice. You're right.
So they don't draw like they think they do, or they think they should, and they argue, and it's arguable if could they ever. They drew enough to get AEW off the ground, but are they a big enough draw to get it to the promised land? And I think that's where the big argument is. Are the Elite strong enough without Cody Rhodes, without CM Punk? Are they strong enough to help get this company over the hump? Jericho's not. He's proving it now on a weekly basis. He's getting go-away heat at this point in time in many instances. There's something has got to get AEW back in the right to get them over that hump. And I don't know what it is right now, but they need something. Because I would doubt it very more that they're doing more than 800,000 a night. The second William Regal said MJF wasn't here tonight, how many people turned that TV off tonight? That was like a punch in the gut because you're expecting MJF to be there and you get punched right in the gut. That the one guy that everyone wants to see isn't going to be on your show on the episode after he wins the world championship.
And at the media scrum mentioned it would be Destination TV.
What destination? You're They need MJF now more than ever. He cannot take the Tonight Show, the show off tonight.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you open it with an angle. And I don't want to get too much into the pay-per-view, but we're in AEW. Then they open it up with the angle this evening, where William Regal comes out, getting booed heavily, getting really great heat. Moxley comes out to kick his ass. Bryan Danielson comes out and doesn't fight, doesn't do anything, just talks Moxley out of it. Moxley basically says, William Regal, get the hell out of the ring, walk, never come back ever again. And then they go off in the commercial with Moxley with tears in his eyes. And that's all you got from that whole storyline. From everything that happened on Saturday, it's all you got. It wasn't a bad Dynamite, but that is someone taking a shit in your cereal. When the one guy I wanted to see more than anybody was to hear MJF, and that didn't happen.
And I don't even care that he's making a movie, right? Like, he's got to fly back and forth. I'm sorry. And especially with this being the first show, the night before Thanksgiving, right? Imagine a promo he could have cut, and then people going to their houses or their families tomorrow with like former fans saying, hey, you remember Roddy Piper? This guy is like almost a new Roddy Piper. You got to see this promo.
And Piper's one of his favorites too, one of his heroes.
Yeah, exactly. And people would reckon, yes, yep. And that's the thing. So you would have had that moment if MJF came out tonight and eviscerated everybody and explained why he and Regal are together. This was so mishandled, and this is a one way that you lose momentum.
Yeah.
I was so annoyed as an MJF fan, as somebody who watches AEW, and I just could not believe. Like, honestly, that crowd, especially in Chicago, even with his history of CM Punk, they would have been behind him, and no matter what, it would have been just a real lively scene. It would have been great optics for you to expand your brand tonight. Like, this is an important weekend in wrestling. And they just mailed it in.
You can make that argument in terms of not having MJF on there. And I love Ishii. Love Tomohiro Ishii. But he should not be on your main event. He's not even a top name in New Japan anymore. The guy, I think he got like 3 victories in the G1 this year. Ishii is not the guy he was 10 years ago. He's not that big of a deal. Americans don't know who he is. Why is he main eventing your television program? It makes 0 sense against Jericho, who, as great as people for some reason, Tony Khan thinks Jericho's over like Rover. He's not. People are openly saying he's one of the worst things on the show now. I don't agree with that. Vladi, I know you do, though.
It's too much. And it's too much in the main event scene.
It really is. I'm tired of Ring of Honor being all over the show. I'm fucking tired of it. If I wanted to watch Ring of Honor, I would have watched it Ring of Honor when it was Ring of Honor, not just underneath the AEW umbrella. I didn't care. I'm sorry. Sorry, Marks. I never got into Ring of Honor. My bad. So I don't want to watch it in my AEW. I said it, Vladi Dottie. I said it.
That must have felt cathartic right there, man.
Nah, it's not cathartic. I've been thinking it for a while. I was hoping that they start combining some of these titles, but he wants to keep ROH as its own entity. Fine, make it its own entity, but keep it off Dynamite. Make Rampage all over Ring of Honor Rampage, ROH Rampage. Do that. Fine. Get it off of Dynamite. Just focus on AEW, guys. Period. That's it. That's it with that. But that's where we were at with the main event. And the main event at All Out, we can skip over to that. What did you think about William Regal turning, which you called, by the way, Vladi Dottie, ladies and gentlemen, called last week, said William Regal was going to turn on Moxley. I thought the same thing. You were a little bit more about it, and you were more assertive about it. I said, I think maybe, I don't know. You were like, that's what I think is going to happen. And that certainly did. Your thoughts on the match and your thoughts on what transpired at the end of the match.
I thought the match was good. Like, how can I put this? There was great psychology involved in it. It had me and Ray Pearson, who was watching it, totally intrigued with it. We bought into it, I gotta say. It wasn't an MJF match. I probably still have a soft spot for that Darby Allin MJF match still to this day. And then I also like the dog collar match as well. But this one was still a very good one. It told a great story. I I love seeing the reaction of the crowd to MJF, especially. And listen, Moxley knew he was basically the supposed heel.
Yeah,
because it did. Like I don't. MJF could have just done crimes against humanity in that middle of that ring and still would have gotten over as a face. So MJF was, and so Moxley was in a tough spot, and I recognize that. However, as we got towards the end of the match there, and as things unfolded, they're playing the knee injury really well to MJF. Then you see Regal there after MJF has that, that moment of zen where he's like, I'm not going to use that ring of mine that he usually knocks somebody out with. And then here you have Regal admonishing him, saying, you better not do it. And then rolls the brass knuckles in front of him. MJF picks him up, knocks out Moxley, and is your new champion. And I popped. I was like, okay, I'm good with this. And I like the idea of MJF and Regal together. It's a bit, in some ways, a little bit reminiscent of maybe Heyman and Punk in WWE in some ways. And there's a good, and especially with MJF, like teasing that he wants to go to WWE, and here's a guy from WWE who's like sort of his manager and mentor. So I really like all the aspects of them together. But as we just discussed, they really dropped the ball at Dynamite tonight, the day before Thanksgiving. But I do like the fact that Regal and MJF are combined. There's part of me that actually even kind of wants, I wouldn't mind seeing Samoa Joe involved there as an enforcer of some type, because he has that bond with Regal from NXT a little bit. And, and then you have that infamous moment where MJF was security with Joe at NXT, and Joe sort of put him in his place. Yeah. And I think there's something that could be made there, and especially with Joe having those two belts currently, you can have something special. I don't know where they're going to go with this, especially with the firm and et cetera, et cetera. Pinnacle again, whatever. There was, again, leading into 2 weeks into that match, I thought there was a chance that MJF might be a face, but obviously the devil is truly out there and he's amongst us and he's your champion. So we're getting heel MJF through and through.
I'm excited about it. I thought it was a very good match. Thought it was a really good classic heel ending. MJF never overthinks his finishes. If you notice, it's always just something really simple, like the thing with the tie with the rope. It's just a good old school cheating is what he's always been all about. Kick to the balls, whatever the case may be. MJF always does it in this beautiful way. But again, very disappointing he wasn't there. We got a new women's champion at AEW, Full Gear. What'd you think about the Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter match?
I thought it was really good. That was another comment made by Ray Pearson there, where he thought that Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter were like the most fluid and had maybe one of the better matches of the night. He was really impressed by them both. So that was positive feedback if you're looking for additional fans. He was like, this sounds and I even said that the only thing I said to him about Hayter, I go, God bless you. I go, the only thing I said about Hayter, I go, I'm like, I'm not looking to sway your opinion, because I was even asking him who he thought might win and whatnot. I said, I love the way she wrestles. She's aggressive, takes it to the person, sells beautifully. It looks very real.
And she's got a great ass.
and then after a few minutes, he's like, holy cow. He's like, these two are really impressive, man. And I'm like, I'm telling you. So yeah, basically that was a positive. It was a good match. And as we found out tonight, that she is not the interim champion, she is the world champion. So
good for Jamie Hayter.
Yeah, she's a great. I'm definitely part of the Hayter club, and I'm drinking Haterade there at this point. So
you're not the only one. She's very much over as a babyface, even though she won. Even as a heel, she won with heel tactics. So yeah, the AEW women's division start. I think they took a little bit of a really, really good turn. I thought Saraya and Britt Baker was good too. I thought their women's division. We don't have to get into Jade and Nyla Rose. How was that match? We are going to, but how is Jade and Nyla Rose? I didn't see this match.
That was easily the worst match of the night. Big waste of time.
I heard it was a bit longer than it needed to be.
It was 7 minutes. This is what's nuts. And I saw something online about this, right? 7 minutes long. And at one point, they take a 40-minute break. I'm sorry, 40-second break amongst the 7 minutes in the middle of the match.
Why?
And it was because they were just gassed. I don't know.
Double down?
Yeah, both of them were down. They were just like waiting and then just taking a break. And I'm like, this is garbage. And Ray Pearson thought the same. He's like, this is like, he felt that it was so amateurish, that match in particular. It was really bad.
Nyla has some clunkers, man, because I don't put it necessarily on Jade, because Jade, you know what you are with her. She only has 30 professional matches. So, but she can get, if you put someone with her that can go, she can have a decent match. She's like kind of like a Diesel was like that. You put someone with Diesel, Kevin Nash would have a decent match because he knew how to do certain things. And he was a big guy. He was athletic. He was able to do enough to get over with somebody who knew what they were doing. Far too often, Tony puts someone who doesn't know what they're doing with Jade, and it really shows the vulnerability of her as a performer. And that might have been the case here. I didn't see that particular match. Unfortunately, we certainly knew Jade was going to win. There was not a lot of interest, I think, for that particular match either, because there was no way Nyla Rose was beating Jade Cargill. Everyone knew it.
Yeah.
They got to get somebody who you actually think has an opportunity to beat Jade. There's nobody that has come close to where, okay, I think she might beat her.
Yeah, and this is where you and I were talking in pre-production, where I would love if they decide to just turn Jamie Hayter a bit more on the face side of things, along with Britt Baker, and have Britt Baker go after Jade Cargill and be the one to end the streak, and then both of them would be champions in the same group. So that's the way I would approach it at this point, because Jade needs to be a little bit, I think, humbled at this point, and they got to do something a little different with her.
I would agree. What else we have for this pay-per-view that we got to talk about? We had the Acclaim beating Swerve and Keith Lee, with Keith Lee walking away from Swerve. I did see this particular match, and I thought it was good. I think it was probably the third best of the three matches that they've had, but I thought it was good. The Acclaimed are over like Rover big time.
Yeah. It was okay. I mean, what it was predictable to me. I mean, Keith Lee walks out, leaves Swerve there alone, and of course Swerve's got to do the job. So therefore, to me, it was a bit on the predictable side, and I was kind of happy that we're moving along, and they don't have to necessarily deal with them anymore. I'm big, as you know, I'm a big fan of the Acclaimed. I like what's going on there.
Well, interestingly enough, tonight on AEW Dynamite, and if you saw a promo, the road to tonight's Dynamite in Chicago, Keith Lee said, "Choose your words wisely, Swerve. This can go two ways, what have you." So they started talking. I don't know if they're breaking up right away, because they said, "Hey, let's talk." They hid the camera and then they went and talked. So it didn't look like they might not be breaking up. Is there a possibility Keith Lee goes heel here? I don't know, because you didn't have the big breakup that I think a lot of us thought we were getting tonight.
I mean, they're just prolonging the magic at this point. I mean, I don't know what the hell we're waiting for.
They got to be done with the Acclaim. The Acclaim's got to move on, which I think they are. I think the Acclaim started a
feud with the Slapnut and Jay Lethal.
That must have had you just tingling in your cockles of your heart.
Oh, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to watch Jeff Jarrett get involved in a feud with one of my top two favorite tag teams.
So we don't have to get into that match, by the way, the Jarrett match.
Yeah. And I call that one out. The one reaction from Ray Pearson, of course, who knows Sting, was this. So Sting's out there, and it was like literally 2 minutes into the match. Ray Pearson turns to me. He goes, "Hey, why is Sting dressed like a plumber?" And I started laughing. I was like, well, he's probably going to do a bit of a high spot, and that's probably all padding underneath there.
Yeah,
he's
he
like,
definitely.
Okay.
He does more high spots now than he ever did in his career.
He's a junkie.
He's staying relevant, baby. Sting's still a big draw, man. You got to love it.
I mean, listen, if the circumstances were right, and they probably should have already been done already, Darby and Sting should have been your tag champs at one point here.
I agree. There's a lot of teams that should have been the tag team champs, and you got it's just that might be playing into what we were talking about before. What else we got going on for this pay-per-view, and some follow-up from Dynamite this week?
Let me see here. We already discussed Jay Lethal. Oh, TNT Championship. Wardlow, Samoa Joe, and Powerhouse Hobbs.
I'm glad Samoa Joe won. I liked how he won too. I didn't see the entire match, but hey, I was hoping they could combine those two titles because there's too many friggin' titles. Combine the TV championship and they just combine all these titles. There's too many goddamn titles on this team. Can you hold on one second, man? I've been trying to hold in a urination for a while. I'm going to press pause.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the fatal four-way Vladi Dottie. What did you think about that bad boy?
Really good match. Between Bryan Danielson, El Ocho or the Ocho, Chris Jericho, Claudio Castagnoli, and then Sammy Guevara. As far as the match up until the final few seconds of it, pretty damn near perfect. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Even Ray Pearson was buying into it. Love that match compared to the Elite match, honestly. Just a little bit of the different styles. Mentioned, and honestly, out of all the four guys that were there, Ray Pearson was really impressed with Sammy Guevara.
Sammy Guevara.
Yeah, he was like, wow. He's like, this kid's something else. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, some people kind of compare him to like a young Eddie Guerrero. As soon as I said that, he's like, you know what? I can see that. Like he was a little bit of Sammy Mark at that point, and actually thought he should win. He was hoping he would win by the end of it.
Yeah, and he got into it with Jericho too for a little bit, didn't he?
He did. So yeah, that was it was a good match. I can't take anything away from it. But although, and again, how can I put this? It's live. You have four competitors going at it. The spot that they wanted to do there with Claudio and Jericho nailing them with the Judas effect. It was a misfire, to say the least. Sort of a glancing blow. Claudio played it off nicely. He's a true professional. Kind of set himself up to get another one, and then Jericho beat him. So good match overall. Can't complain.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, you really have the four, whether you want to call it like Jericho or not. Jericho knows what he's doing in the ring, and when you have him with three guys on that level, particularly Castagnoli, all three of them. You got to say Sammy too. All three of those guys are probably arguably three top 25 wrestlers on the planet. So it was the recipe was ripe for success there. So there's that. And there's a bunch of other things going on in AEW going into this week's Dynamite as well that we may or may not have touched on. But the big thing we're walking away from is no momentum picked up with MJF, Jon Moxley. No momentum's picked up at all. And and then is the Blackpool Combat Club going to still be a thing? So many things haven't been explained, and we're not explained tonight that weren't even addressed adequately either, which is the other problem.
What a waste of a walkaway show into a big holiday family weekend where they could have taken advantage of this. Word of mouth would have been great. They could have seen a bit of a spike in numbers next week. Going into Winter is Coming. But no! Can't have that.
Because Tony Khan hates you.
Because Tony Khan wants to provide you with mediocrity.
He wants to provide you with Ring of Honor is what he wants to provide you with. Screw AEW. Let's just make it Ring of Honor. AEW is more valuable and a bigger deal than Ring of Honor. Sorry, folks. Ring of Honor wasn't drawing 800,000 people. Wasn't drawing 1 million people. AEW is a bigger deal. I want AEW on my TV every night. I don't need Ring of Honor. But I digress.
Did you hear about the new Jericho trademark?
I mean, he trademarks everything. What's this one?
Did you hear about this?
It is?
Yeah. Jericho, he's got the new trademark. He's calling it Christery. It's like history, but Christery.
He loves his puns and his alliteration. That is something Jericho loves. And I can't fault the man for that.
Can't, man.
Well, that's all we have today this week for AEW Dynamite and Full Gear Review. We'll be back. Check out our next video where we're talking about the Survivor Series WWE. Triple H, he's bringing War Games to Survivor Series Thanksgiving weekend. We're going to be back with our picks. A brand new quarter is starting, and I want the purple nurple to go back with my beautiful velour purple hoodie. But that's next time on High Spots and Cheap Pops. Until then, this is Silicon Steve Alley for Bloody Dotty. Here endeth the lesson. Hey, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out my Writing Everyday Fan. Check out Bloody Dotty Writing on Facebook. High Spots and Cheap Pops. Gaining more subscribers every single week. We're vibing with you and we're feeling it. We'll see you guys next time right here on High Spots and Cheap Pops. Have a good day.